Some videos I make are about things I'm right about, and you can downvote if I'm wrong or you think I am, and you are. In this one, I'm just saying how I feel about stuff, which I'm definitely going to be right about. Thanks for your upvote. I'm not even necessarily claiming to be intellectually correct. Describing how I feel can involve direct intent of how I believe things should be, alongside self-analysis of why I feel that way. I've written lyrics for ages and read and heard them for longer. I don't think I notice them to the same extent as more casual music listeners, sometimes appreciating what I can mishear, otherwise preferring to experience music in a somewhat softer focus, where the words combine with the melody and music into their full product. In Anglophone pop music, you'll hear the word baby a lot. Here it's often a pet name for addressing a partner or romantic interest. I've never understood this. I think it's potentially an autistic trait to hear a word with multiple meanings and experience either all of them or the primary one and be left with the challenge of decoding which one was intended. English is full of words with multiple meanings, and it makes the language ripe for wordplay, but also for misinterpretation. When I use a word, I at least acknowledge all of its potential meanings. Everyone knows a baby is a neonate. I've not used or received it as a pet name for a partner because I've not had a relationship that includes sexual attraction to babies yet. There is a cutesiness to this infantilizing nickname, like someone you take care of is your baby, someone who's mortally important to you in a biologically instinctive love. I get it, but every time it takes me out of songs, and it's so frequent and lazy. It comes up a lot in songs I cover, and it's such a filler word that you can replace it with the equally intellectually present maybe or other pet names like traitor or something. I don't always avoid it, but I always cringe. Other pet names don't come up nearly as much. Babe is almost the same, but it's way more abstracted from references to babies in contemporary use. I think I'd be okay with being addressed with most of the other pet names from someone intimately close enough, and they can be okay in lyrics. Not far from baby is little girl, which shows up in macho love songs and brings intense cringe. Hopefully the narrator isn't literally referring to a little girl, but the alternative isn't much better, that they're infantilizing someone, unless it's just sung from a child's perspective. It's part of this brash protective persona that other Springsteen songs make a better version of. I think this one's fading to the past in general because of how horrible it comes across, and sometimes actually is. Then there's girl by itself. I accept the complexity of girl. I've been an adult for way too long, and within the right sentences, I describe some of my peers as girls, and in some contexts I'm girl too. Obviously, infantilizing people is bad, but gendered adulthood is gross too. Girl has this particular space where not only is it the pair of the equally childish boy, but it's also the pair of the non-infantilizing guy. And there's some patriarchy in that pairing. Girl itself barely crosses into a bugbear for me. In a lot of ways I consider it reclaimed. You just have to be careful to earn its context. Look to Sweet Child of Mine for a song that uses a different, inarguably infantilizing term, but is unambiguously a protective gendered love song for weddings and whatever, that's still intentionally a little sinister. I'm not sure quite how conscious that decision was, but it really works. Addressing people in such a gender segregated manner is a big bugbear of human culture that ain't gonna resolve in my lifespan, just tells me which people to avoid. Maybe love songs are kinda overrepresented in music, but then again, love is so intense and romantic and painful. I don't blame them. Remember love? Obviously, slurs are something to be particularly careful with. I don't think we should rule out saying them, just ensure we choose them with clear understanding and intent. Since their reasonable use is often subversive, we have to ensure the subversion is artistically clear. I think we as a culture, maybe more Americans, are way too loose with the misogynistic slur bitch. I don't insist you can't say it, I just think we should be careful careful what we're saying when we say it and not pretend it doesn't contribute to the oppression of women. Some people entirely refer to women, or at least those they can sexualize, as hoes. Anglophone music has a lot of reference to the dominant culture of Christianity. Obviously, Christian music is trash. Gospel is a genre mostly defined by an oppressed group praising the vehicle of their oppression. Like churches, we've ultimately got some pretty stuff out of this culture that we can maybe eventually repurpose to something valuable and unoppressive. I think my perspective of religion is out with the current culture. Evidence suggests that many people still think it's seriously true, and it probably comforts them. I can't force culture to catch up, and religious music just isn't for me. It's generally quite respectfully segregated as a genre. Considering how many lyricists are believers, they mostly know that they're gonna alienate by preaching, and they can maintain intellectual integrity by separating that from more real stuff. Some interpretations of Islam even condemn music as a whole, so you have to stick to visual depictions of Muhammad. So I accept that religious music is a separate culture from me, and it only occasionally bleeds into my wheelhouse as something to cringe at or skip. But that's conscious religion. God has permeated so much of language, obviously in phrases like, "Oh my God, bless you, God willing." These sayings we have to accept, they're almost intellectually separate from actual belief in a God, but they contribute to perpetuating it. I don't say this shit. I think once or twice I've tried it in a lyric, testing out expanding my idiolect, and just supplied my own cringe at that. I should have trusted my self-knowledge and done better. It's not like we'll rule out words like goodbye. I don't intend to communicate without any artifacts of religion, but religion is still present and harmful, and I think it's important to choose not to be a part of that. I listen to Kula Shaker, or maybe they get away with their lackwit evangelism by it being in a culture and language I know less about, but either way, it's far from the dumbest thing Kula Shaker has ever said. An odd slipstream feature of religion is the concept of souls and spirituality. This shit doesn't exist, doesn't refer to anything real, but slots into humanity as a handy metaphor. Again, my instinct discourages such references. I am fine with spirit, as it also means persona. Soul is all over pop music, though, and lyricists lose me when they say it, because they're no longer referring to anything. They mean themselves as an intellectual entity, but they're lost in spiritual babble. There's obvious bugbears like double negatives and could care less. I think when I hear Ain't Got No, I accept I'm hearing an American version of English that works a bit differently. And I enjoy and adopt some grammatical corruptions like don't we got. I don't believe in English as an immutable monolith, but a tool to strive to use to communicate clearly. The entirety of Anglophone culture provides an overall subconscious collaboration in this endless pursuit, as does all communication in all languages. Some people hate other fillers like whoa, yeah, or whatever. Whoa, yeah, whatever. A well-executed whoa is brilliant. There can be too many las or nas at times, but they're not even lyrics, so I'll shut up about them. It's only that American pronunciation of la, that really gets to me, and that's just me being a bigot. They're pronouncing this non-word differently. Some people hate slant rhymes, and they're wrong. If something sounds like it rhymes, it rhymes. Similarly, rhyming a word with itself is a delectable technique you can earn and distribute. The first-person perspective is kinda overrepresented in pop music. Maybe it's inherent. By performing, you're almost always adopting a persona, and if you try second or third person, your persona is the storyteller. Second person song songs can become didactic, third-person songs impersonal. Maybe we shouldn't even consider the person's need to be present. As I've honed my abilities as a lyricist, I've dithered around whether it's justified or relevant or tedious for me to express things in singular first person, and I've eventually stumbled toward a level where I trust my ability to do so. I don't insist it's the right way, it's one of many ways. For a while I was stuck insisting that in a world with so much injustice, the thing it's imperative to communicate is political protest. I wasn't wrong, but protest only works with audience, specifically those whose minds you might be able to change. I fully laud artists who are politically forward, obviously just the left-wing ones, but that's a given because I said artists. Through childhood I battled with the instinct that goes, the perspective of a white middle class, lower middle class, almost straight man is already way overrepresented in art and public life. There is nothing relevant for me to express that wouldn't be better enacted stepping aside for marginalized voices, but I'm literally just me, and I reject those categorical constructs to the extent that, yeah, I do now think how I feel is relevant to express. My lyrics are very wordplay oriented because my communicational mindset is, when I communicate, my intent is to comment on the absurd or the interesting, and there's a parallel metatextual layer to this in my choice of words. I think this sets my approach reasonably close to Elvis Costello, for example. There are many other approaches to lyricking, and some of them belong alongside each other in the pantheon of linguistic expression. Ooh, now there's a useful religious allegory. When Human by the Killers came out, Dullards generated claptrap about it not making sense because they are intellectually unwilling to parse this quite simple, if traditionally imperfect, sentence. It's really entry-level philosophy, and you will enjoy lyrics so much more if your intellect makes a grand step up to the entry level. What else? Mispronounced words. I've probably done a few. Some references age badly. I think in this age of immediate backlash, we should be careful to allow artists to not always write as themselves. There's some words that appear disproportionately in songs because there's not much that rhymes with life, so you gotta say strife. I don't really mind common and predictable rhymes though, at least among better stuff. The stupid cliches like can't get enough. I think the real value of a cliche is as something to subvert. They're slightly there as handy references, but they're more often tedious. To some extent it's handy and appealing to name a song after a cliche, because then you're making the jingle for any time someone has that thought. But what value does a song have if it doesn't bring anything intellectually and creatively? This video ends like this.